Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're putting a classic novel on trial. I'm talking about Charles Dickens's Hard Times. And get this, the charge is, well, it's complicated. Is it a masterpiece, or is it a complete and total failure? Let's find out.
So let's just jump right into the big question here. I mean, how can a single book by an author as legendary as Dickens get called both a profound work of art and a total flop? It's a real literary mystery. And it's got these two heavyweight critics going head-to-head, with the book's reputation hanging right in the middle.
And here they are, our two literary combatants. In one corner, you've got F.R. Leavis, a super influential critic who basically said Hard Times was Dickens at his absolute best. And in the other corner, J.B. Priestley, another giant in the field, who'd pretty much called it one of his weakest books. I mean, their opinions could not be more different. So let's dig into the arguments they each lay out.
All right, let's start with the case for the novel, the argument that it's a masterpiece. This is championed by F.R. Leavis, and he argued for it passionately. For him, this wasn't just some book, it was a major work of art.
Yeah, a completely serious work of art. This one phrase really sums up Leavis's whole take. He was saying, hey, this isn't just a fun story or some social soapbox. He wanted everyone to see it for its, deep artistic genius. So what exactly was his argument built on?
So Leavis really lays out a strong case. He says, look, Dickens usually has this wild, sprawling energy, right? But in Hard Times, it's all perfectly focused, perfectly controlled. He even said the writing was so good, so poetic, it was almost like Shakespeare. And for Leavis, the characters were more than just people. They were powerful symbols. You have Sissy Jupe in the circus, and they stand for everything vibrant and human, like art and life itself. And they're pushing back against this cold, hard philosophy called utilitarianism. You know, that whole idea that everything's just about facts and what's useful for the most people? Leavis thought the book's critique of that idea was just brilliant.
Okay, but of course there's another side to this story. Decades later, J.B. Priestley comes along and basically presents the case against Hard Times. He's not just saying the praise is wrong, he's saying it's completely missing the point.
And wow, Priestley really didn't hold back, calling the praise for the novel one of the most foolish statements of this age. I mean, that's not just disagreeing, that is a full-on attack. He's basically trying to tear down the entire reputation that Leavis built up for the book.
For Priestley, it all comes down to this. The novel just fails on two key levels. First, as a piece of art. He thought it was just full of these flat, cartoonish characters and way too much melodrama. It was missing that special spark, that genius you see in other Dickens books. But second, it also fails as social commentary. Priestley's big point was that Dickens didn't really understand the industrial world he was writing about, so the setting, Coketown, ends up feeling less like a real, breathing city and more like a piece of propaganda.
So what is going on here? Why such a huge disagreement? It's not just about one critic liking it and one not. It goes way deeper, right down to the very core of the novel. Let's really unpack Priestley's thinking to see how he got to a place so completely opposite from Leavis.
Okay, and this is where it gets super interesting. Check this out. They're both looking at the exact same thing, Sleary's Circus, and seeing completely different things. Leavis sees it as this amazing symbol of life, art, and everything that the grim city of Coketown isn't. But Priestley, he's like, no, that's a cop-out. He thinks it's just an artificial, idealized escape. For him, a truly great author would have found the beauty and humanity within Coketown itself, not by plopping a circus down outside of it.
You can actually see Priestley's argument as a kind of chain reaction. It all starts with step one. Dickens's knowledge was shallow. He was just a tourist in these industrial towns, not someone who lived there. That leads to step two. The setting, Coketown, feels fake, like propaganda. And if your foundation is shaky, then step three, the social criticism, just doesn't land. It feels flimsy. And all of that together leads to the final conclusion, step four. The whole thing is just, well, not a great work of art.
Okay, so we've heard both sides, the passionate argument for masterpiece and the cold, hard case for failure. So, what's the verdict? Where do we land after all this?
Well, if you side with Priestley's argument, the main takeaway is pretty clear. A powerful theme just isn't enough to carry a novel. Yeah, Dickens had an important point to make about the problems with industrial society. But for Priestley, because the book itself was flawed, with a weak setting and over-the-top characters, it actually ends up hurting the very message it's trying to send.
And this whole debate really shows you what's so cool about literary criticism. It's not about telling you what to think. It's about giving you the tools to think for yourself. It lays out the arguments, shows you the different perspectives, and then it lets you be the judge.
So really, the big question isn't who was right, Leavis or Priestley. The real question is, when you pick up the book, what's your verdict going to be?